Not every 72-hour emergency kit has to be to prepare you to live outdoors in the wilderness off the grid should you have to leave your house in a very quick amount of time. In fact, my emergency kit is solely designed to get me to the next safe place. And that could be a shelter. It could be a safe haven. It could be a family member's home, a hotel, even surviving in your car if you need to. So I'm going to show you what is in my bug out bag. Everything in here is designed to keep me safe and protected, well fed, comfortable in the weather elements, and get me to the next spot where I need to be so that I can regroup and figure out what to do after a natural disaster or some other catastrophic event where I had to leave my home at a minute's notice. So here's a look at the backpack and how big it is. So you'll notice that I have this checklist. I just tied this on with something that can easily be removed. And there are some things in life that, you use on a daily basis and you're not going to have packed up in the bag, but that you want to be sure to bring. I wrote this on a piece of white paper and put packing tape on one side so that it would be a little bit laminated. And then we would grab that, and I had some extra room in the backpack in order to accommodate those things. And then I can easily just take this off because it is just like packing ribbon. All right, so on the side of each side of the backpack, I have a bottle of water and a bottle of vodka. And so I put these into plastic bags simply so they wouldn't leak and ruin anything. But these things of water are going to be what gets you started. Then there's going to be an emphasis on water filtration along the way. And the reason that I have the vodka, there's one in each bag as well. It's a morale booster, stress. You could also barter with it. But this is just a clear vodka. It also can be used medicinally. This can be used to clean wounds. It can be used as a hand sanitizer. I believe this can be used to start fires. So there are multiple reasons. So even if you don't drink, you might want to consider bringing a small thing of vodka. You don't have to. All right, we'll start with the outermost pockets. This is in no particular order. I tried to put things that we might need first in the outer pocket. So that is going to be reading glasses in a hard case so that they don't get broken. I also have a pair of contacts in there as well. If you wear prescription glasses, you might want extra glasses. It just depends on whatever your situation is. All right, so this is a pair of sunglasses, and this is a homemade sunglass case. So this is just a pot holder that is folded in half. You can sew the seams. You could hand stitch the seams together. You could even hot glue them. But it gives some padding in order to protect the sunglasses. But the great thing is that this sunglass case can now be used for cooking. It's a pot holder. And so if you have something that's hot, a stainless steel cup that I'll show you in a little bit, this can help protect your hands. So super easy to make. Highly suggest doing it that way. All right, I do have a little composition book. You can find these. I think they're like 3 for $1 at Dollar General. You can buy them at Walmart. They're super inexpensive, but paper is always good. Definitely if you want to leave a note for family members, if you want to play tic-tac-toe and games, like write down notes, any of that type of stuff, even like a diary situation. I know you can get like paper that you can write on in the rain. That's just a big expense. It's going to be way more expensive than, I think this was like around 30-something cents the way that I did it, and that easily fits in there. Then there is a closed zipper here. All right. I have a jump drive. It is so very important to bring important documents with you. If for some reason you were to lose documentation, you need this. You need this in order to show the things that you own, the bank accounts, all of that stuff. So be sure to put digital copies. We're talking about things like marriage licenses, birth certificates, social security numbers, bank information, mortgage. If you own a business, be sure to put on important business information in here. I do have a list of things that you definitely want to include in a digital file on a jump drive. I'll put that link in the description below. And then we've got cash. So the important thing is to use small bills for cash. This is oh so important because if the grid is down and only cash is being accepted, people aren't making change for like 50s and 100s and large bills. So what I was doing is every time I had some small bills, I would put them aside. I have $100 in here. You can choose whatever amount makes sense to you. Even a smaller amount is fine. Just have some cash so that if you needed to buy water, if you needed to buy food or gas or anything, that you would have it on hand, especially if the grid goes down. All right. And let me say, like I said, I kept putting this away. This whole bag was done over the course of many months. This was not an overnight thing, and it shouldn't be an overnight thing necessarily for you. It'd be great if it was. But, you know, there's some investment and time in this. So don't feel like this is a one and done overnight thing. In this tiny little compartment, I do have a whistle. I'd like to get a better metal whistle, but for right now, this is what I have because you would want that readily available. You could get a better whistle and have it hanging off one of the straps on a backpack. That would be fine too. For this specific backpack, this is like designed that you could actually put a basketball in there. So I could extend these clips and put something else in here, like a jacket, a blanket, something like that. So it is still expandable, and that's one of the reasons that I like this backpack. So I have this little pocket here, and it holds a lot. I do have some pepper spray. You will want some sort of protection. And then this is a weather radio. I do like sometimes to keep things in their original packaging. For this reason, I kept the bubble wrap just to keep it a little bit protected. And as you can see, the directions are still in there as well. You might think that you're going to remember how to use all this stuff. When you're in an emergency situation, probably you're going to forget a little bit. So this is the radio that I have. What I wanted was something that had solar recharging, a hand crank as well, and I can charge this up via a cord. There's 3 ways to keep this powered on. I have tried the radio. It does work good. It also has an emergency flashlight on it. So there's multiple uses for this. I believe with the power on here that I can technically charge up my phone too, although you really can't depend on that. I mean, you're looking for only a tiny bit of charge. You're not going to fully charge your entire phone. But a weather radio is super important so that you know what's going on. Found that out during Helene. I did not listen to the emergency radios. Obviously, I listened to weather reports before the hurricane, but like in the aftermath, in the days afterwards where communication was not great, I wish I had listened to the radio more because you're so used to getting things on your phone and the internet. So again, the multiple ways of charging something is super important to me. Hand crank, solar, and can charge it via a cord. Also in here is an emergency vest. This is just to make you visible while you're walking if you choose to be visible. As you can see, got it on clearance at Walmart. Also in here, I have another flashlight. Again, if you see my Hurricane Helene videos, you know that redundancy and backups to backups are so important. This is a flashlight that if I wanted to, I could clip it to the backpack. That was important because I wanted to be able to have light, like if you're walking and you want to have some light but not hold the light. This also is a hand crank as well. So again, backups for backups, solar charging there. It's going to take a while to do it, but at least it is an option for solar. And let's see. Oh, yeah. And we have a bright orange bandana. Bandana is so important. I like the fact that it is a bright safety color. Again, can call attention to you if you choose to have attention called to you in order to be rescued. A bandana can act as a pre-filter for your water. So if you're trying to source water from a stream, a pond, something like that, you would want to catch the dirt and debris by just running it through the bandana into whatever your filtration system thing is. You can wrap it around your neck. You can keep make it wet and it would keep you cool. There's so many things. You can wrap this around wounds. So many different things you can do with a bandana. Make sure that it's 100% cotton, not like a poly blend, because those just aren't the same. All right, so now let's go into this front larger pocket. And this is one of the biggest things that I struggled with for our bug out bags and trying to find the best power solution. So what you want is something that can be charged with solar so that you don't have to be on the grid, but you also don't want to rely only on solar because it could be cloudy or you might not be able to be outside where you can get it. Now in this case, this is only a solar panel because we would be going with 2 bags at the same time. I'll show you what the other option is and let you see. And that one is a little bit different. But what this is a solar panel, says 15 watts, I don't know. And it's super thin, it's super lightweight, which is one of the reasons why I got this one. It does have a carabiner, it's not attached right now, but you can hang this on the back of your backpack and it can charge while you're walking if you choose to do that. Or you could just, be sitting outside and having it charge. It is extremely lightweight. That was also another important thing. I was looking for lightweight. I was looking for as much power as possible, as small as possible, as dependable as possible, and not costing a fortune. You can find less expensive things that are bigger. Obviously, you can't bring them with you. You can find things that are smaller, but they might not have as much power output. Have the power right there capability, so you would just need some sort of charger, and for all of these things you need to make sure that you have the cords and the chargers that correspond. So this can be literally baking in the sun. I could have the charging cord there and charge up the phone that way. Now let me show you what other options I might have. So this is another option that was highly suggested. I really like this. The only reason I don't like it as much is because it's so heavy. But this is honestly what I would prefer. You can choose up this or power up this whole power bank with a cord, with electricity, store the power in there. Then you can also increase the power, add more power to the power bank with these solar panels. This was just a little bit more expensive, but it does give you a lot of options. You can see all the inputs that you have. Again, the weight is really the only consideration for me. It is a decent amount of weight, but this allows you to use electricity if you were and it has an emergency flashlight as well. That also has like a strobe feature. If you are in a situation where you were able to charge devices and you wanted to bring back that device or that power bank to somewhere, like in a shelter, this is perfect because you can spend the time and charge this and then power multiple devices wherever you go to. A solar panel like the one that I just showed you is not going to store that power. You're only going to be able to use it as it is charging. You never know what options you are going to be facing. Like during Helene, we had power charging stations where you could bring your power banks and charge them up, but you wouldn't be sitting there on your phone or your laptop or using like a fan or anything like that at those options. So that's why it's kind of, it's like there's pros and cons to all of these power bank options and these solar panel things. You can even find smaller ones. These are going to be less expensive. They are obviously more lightweight, but the power output isn't going to be as strong. It's something that you're just going to have to decide what is most important to you, whether it's price, whether it's weight, whether it's size, or whether it's power capacity. All right, so moving on, rain poncho. Cannot tell you how important it is to have some rain gear, especially if you're evacuating with a weather event such as flooding, tornadoes, hurricanes. This is one of the a little bit better ones, not the cheap plastic one, but something that can be worn again and again. And it has a hood, and you definitely want that hood. I like to have them super big because then you might be able to put that backpack on your back underneath the poncho and keep that dry as well if you don't have a backpack cover. This is more of a situation like if you were to go into a shelter for shelter. This is an eye mask and some earplugs. Shelters are going to be loud and bright and noisy, and you're going to be sleeping really close to other people. So this is more just a comfort item. It's not a necessity, but if you find yourself sheltering in place in a situation like that, this can really help you out. And also, this is just a little USB operated fan. Again, not a necessity, but it can make you feel really good, especially if you sleep hot, or you love a fan at night. You need to keep cords with all of your items so that you know what goes with what. You can buy things like this on, in the stores or on Amazon. This can really help keep you cool. I mean, dealing with the heat you need to keep yourself cool. So again, not a necessity, but definitely can make a big deal difference. Let's see, what else? All right. I got one of these cell phone protectors. This is something where you can put your phone in there. You can hold it around your neck, which could be really great if you are needing to walk and you're hiking and trying to walk and evacuate on foot. So that way your phone is readily accessible, especially if it was a weather event and there was rain. This would keep it protected rather than just having it in your pocket, in which case it could get wet. This is also great if you were in a shelter situation and you wanted to keep some of your belongings with you as you go get a shower or do whatever. You could put the phone in here. You could bring it into the shower with you. That way you don't have to worry about it. You could put all kinds of other things in here like cash and whatnot. But it's just an easy way to keep some of your most important items around your neck without you having to carry it. All right, so this is going to be the main compartment. It isn't a lay flat, but it's almost lay flat. The compartment behind it is lay flat, but I'm not really using that. And I'll tell you why in a minute. So this is a big jumble of stuff, but I have it organized in plastic bags. And I suggest that you do plastic bags as well. That protects things from the weather elements. It also helps keep you organized. So the first thing that we have is a Life Straw water bottle. This is going to be among your most important things because this is going to allow you to have filtered, clean, safe water. Also just a way to store water and bring it with you. Any type of water bottle is important. I especially like this one because it has the Life Straw included in it. So you do you and whatever works. If you had a single wall stainless steel water bottle, that would be great because you could actually boil water in there on a fire, but you have to make sure that it's single wall and no paint on the outside, not a double wall insulated, which is oh so common nowadays. Let's see. Let's just start here, talking about boiling water. This is a stainless steel cup. This actually came in a 2-pack, and I chose these. Let me take this stuff out, and I'll explain that in a minute. I chose these because A, it was more cost effective to get this 2-pack. And then the capacity of these cups were just a little bit bigger. The 2-pack actually stacks on top of each other. And this one would go into that larger one, and then you would have this lid that is supposed to cover both of them. And so you can bring the handles out like this, and it can be a cup. You can use it as a pot. I will put links to this stuff in the description below. Now inside I put just a little bit of aluminum foil that is folded up. This is always good for using to heat food over a campfire if needed. You could fashion it into a bowl if needed. Aluminum foil is always so important, especially when you're cooking food outside. So I just fold that up and put that in there. Also in there, I had some matches and kept them in the box. Just put them in a little plastic bag so that they would be protected and this wouldn't rub against anything. Let me talk about this first. I have a little bit of dryer lint. Again, you could use any sort of tinder. You can buy tinder, but in saving money, I just chose the dryer lint and kept that in a plastic bag and kept that until I got a decent amount. And then I also tucked into this cup this SOS tent. It's kind of like the same material as the emergency blankets that are like silver. It's not going to be a huge tent. It's just going to be in order to protect yourself. But if you should find yourself out in the elements and you needed protection in a tent, this is going to work really good. Moving on. I have yet another flashlight. Again, like I said, in Hurricane Helene, I just found the importance of redundancy after redundancy after redundancy. This is a flashlight that, again, is USB powered, but it's more powerful than some of the other ones. Yeah, there we go. Still on, strobing, and it has light down there as well, which I find interesting. The most important factor about this is that this is incredibly lightweight, like really lightweight. And it has no batteries inside. I did not want to have anything with batteries. There's only one thing in here, and you'll see that in a minute. Did not want anything with batteries because A, they leak when they're being stored. They don't last very long. They have to be replaced, and there's no other option other than buying new batteries. And they just add to the weight. This is a headlamp. This is the only thing with batteries that I have in this entire kit. This is great if you have to walk at night and need a light. Just put that on your forehead rather than the other options where you might need to carry them. Again, lighting is so important. So that's the only battery operated thing I have. 3 flashlights and a couple backups. So that's good. All right, so this is a hygiene kit. This is going to be different for everybody. Let me open this up. So these plastic bags not only protect from the elements, it also keeps things stored, but they have multiple uses in their own right. You can collect water with these. You can put medical waste in here. You can use it as a potty if you need to, and put things like that in there. If you have wet towels or wet socks from being exposed in the elements, you can store them in these until you can get them dry. You don't want everything in your bag getting wet, nasty, or smelly, so these are really important. So this is my hygiene kit of things that are important to me. Again, I wear contacts, so I've got the case that is here as well as the contact solution. I'm just keeping that in the box for now. Toothbrush, keeping it in the packaging for now. I could easily take off the packaging. For me, for toothpaste, I chose toothpaste tablets because I happen to have these. These are super lightweight, and you just put them in your mouth, and with the saliva, they foam up and they act just like toothpaste. Super easy rather than having a tube. So those are good to have. I have bug spray wipes. I would prefer the wipes rather than liquids because liquids are heavy. Liquids can leak. They can be messy. This is just something that you can use one and then you can dispose of the packaging. If you are in a situation in the South, in the summer, even up north, anywhere where you're going to have to be outside, the bugs could be really bad after some sort of natural event, even if it's not a natural disaster, but for some reason you're having to leave the house as well, you know that bugs can make life miserable. We have a little bit of deodorant. So I've got some cleansing wipes. If you don't have water, if you don't have soap, these cleansing wipes are so important in order to clean your hands, to refresh your body. If you can't take a shower, these are the next best thing. I personally like the individual cleansing wipes just because once you open a big pack, they tend to dry out fast. However, you may want to bring just a bigger pack, especially if you're traveling as a family and one of you wants to carry one of these that is a little bit heavier. Again, one of the reasons why I didn't use something like this, but either one of those is going to work. I also have a hotel bar of soap. Hotels, like if you travel and you're able to get some of these hotel toiletries in some of the locations, they're perfect for adding to your bug out bags. I've also seen these in thrift stores for like 25 cents, never used, still wrapped up. So soap important. I've got a little bit of shampoo that I am bringing. This is just a little toiletry kit I got at a hotel. It has a nail file, Q-tips. So that was lightweight, easy to put in there. So this is actually, if I can't wash my hair, dry shampoo can really do wonders. And dry shampoo is expensive, and I couldn't find any really small sizes. So really dry shampoo is just cornstarch. Sometimes you could add like cocoa or cinnamon if you want to make it brown. So I just put a couple tablespoons of cornstarch in a tiny little Ziploc bag, and these tiny little Ziploc bags are so important in putting together these kits. I'll put a link in the description below. But that is what I would use for dry shampoo in order to sop up the oil and kind of extend between actually needing to wash my hair. Again, cost-saving measure. This is an emergency blanket. This is oh so important in order to keep warm in the wintertime. Keeps you protected. This could be used as a tent if you didn't have that emergency tent that I already showed you. I mean, for the size that it is, this is just super important, and it is lightweight. So be sure to have those, and have these in your car as well. All right, I got some of these little cleansing towels. These are the types that you add water to and they become washcloths, or, you know, very small towels. Added a few of those in there because you just never know. I have a small thing of lotion. I have a small thing of sunscreen. Again, if you're out in the elements, this can be especially important, especially in the summertime or even in wintertime. You can get sunburn while hiking through snow. So a little travel size of sunscreen would be great. You can get sunscreen wipes. All right, I have a razor. Again, just something that I got from a hotel, put in there. A little thing of floss. Floss can not only be used for your teeth, but also can be used as like a waxed string. You can use this for all kinds of situations in the outdoors. So that's why I have that in there. I have a pack of pocket tissues, blowing your nose, you know, wiping your hands. Always good to have these disposable napkins or tissues with you. Have a comb that'll get the job done. Nothing fancy. A lip balm. You may want a lip balm with an SPF. I just don't like the SPF in it because it makes my lips irritated. But a lip balm, this is definitely important. In the summertime, in the wintertime, chapped lips can drive you nuts. This is almost like a morale booster. Not only is it important, but it also is a morale booster because, man, cracked lips can really just drive you crazy. All right, and then this is going to be first aid stuff. So I have a bunch of little things in this Ziploc bag. I can make this first aid kit a little bit better. I might do that in the future, but for right now, I just want to have some stuff in here. So I have gauze pads of different sizes. I did get some of these thermometers that you stick on your head so that you would know if you have a temperature. I just think that's kind of important. So I kept the instructions and just put a few of those in there. I also got a bunch of these small little packs. This is first aid burn cream. I also have some antibiotic ointments. And so I got a bunch of those. Individual servings, or not servings, but individual packets just make more sense than a tube or anything big. This is hydrocortisone cream. These came in boxes of like 25 or 30. So you're going to have a lot left over, but that means you can have some for all of your people's kits, bug out bags, as well as doing other little small first aid kits for your car and for your everyday carry and things like that. So alcohol prep pads, again, these came in big boxes, so you have plenty to do all kinds of first aid kits. Got some bigger bandages and some smaller Band-Aids. I got some anti-diarrheal medications. I kept that in the original packaging so I would know what that is. It's important to bring whatever you think you might need. So whether that's a laxative, an acid reflux, whatever you think you might need, bring some of that. And like I said, I shop for clearance and get things as I see it. This is some aspirin that comes in individual packets. Here I've got some ibuprofen that I put in some of these little tiny plastic bags. I'm telling you, these are so awesome when trying to pack light, but pack all these bug out bags and first aid kits. There is some tweezers, because tweezers can be good for getting out splinters, ticks. And then the final part of my first aid kit, something that most people probably aren't going to bring, but I have tea tree oil. I got the smallest bottle that I could. Tea tree oil is an essential oil, but it does have some therapeutic properties. I use it personally for cleaning wounds, for like pimples. It just is really good. Like if you had athlete's foot from being in a shelter situation, or even any other type of situation where you're having to use community showers in a disaster situation, you can just sniff it. If you're in a place that stinks for some reason, you just never know. I find this helps me breathe easier with sinus problems as well. So that is why I just chose to invest in a small bottle of tea tree oil. Not everybody might think this is important, but I really do. All right, coming back to the bag of goodies, let's just go ahead and get into this stuff. This is kind of like survival gear. A little bit of all the stuff that isn't necessarily food, first aid, or hygiene. Let's just dump this stuff out. So entertainment is going to be oh so important. It doesn't matter if you're hiking in the woods, if you're in a shelter, if you're at a family's place, if you're in a hotel. If you don't have the internet, if you're like off grid, what are you going to do in your downtime? Sometimes you just need things to take your mind off of the situation, and that is stress relief. So this is super important. I ripped out some pages out of a word search book. Didn't want to bring the whole book, but if you can find a small book and put that in there, that is awesome. I also have an old pack of cards. Again, I got this at the thrift store, 25 cents, I think. Put those in there so I can have cards. And I also have pens. Sharpie is important for so many reasons. Among them is that, it can be seen more easily on paperwork, but obviously you can mark on things where you can't use a pen. All right, so hand warmers, obviously super important if you could be in cold weather. Did you know that they have large warmers? So this is a super warmer. I think this would be especially fantastic if you needed to stay warm overnight. But these were not that expensive, and they are the bigger kind. But I also put in a pack of toe warmers because you might just have cold feet and not need like the big pack while sleeping. And a thing of hand warmers. So just be sure to put in some of those. This is just a small little bag of some paper clips, some safety pins. You never know when you might need this type of stuff. Doesn't take up a whole lot of room and is super lightweight, so put that in there. This is a little sewing kit. Again, something that I got at a hotel, but you can easily find these at some like dollar stores. This would be good for fixing clothing or anything else that you might need to fix along the way. All right, these are some glow sticks. Again, if you want light, but you don't want to leave one of your devices behind, I'm thinking this might be good if you have like a car breakdown, if you're evacuating by car and then you're on the side of the road, you might want to alert to your situation, have a light stick there. Maybe if you have like a potty facility in the woods and you're trying to find it in the middle of the night, you could have a glow stick open there. Could be a morale thing and something fun for kids if they're scared of the dark and you are outside or in a situation, even a hotel room, where maybe you evacuated to a hotel or family, but they don't have power. So this can help keep kids just calmed down and, as a glow stick, they can have fun with that. And these are super lightweight to bring as well. Lots of zip ties, because when can't you use zip ties? And I'm thinking about zip ties for being used for if you needed to make an emergency tent. You could zip tie items together, like around a tree trunk. You could zip tie if you don't have a carabiner, but you want to have something hanging off one of the straps of a backpack. You could zip tie it. You could use these for so much stuff. They're so lightweight and inexpensive. I highly suggest putting some of those in any kit that you have. All right, a multi-tool, so important. Again, you can spend a small fortune on a multi-tool, just like you can a power supply. So what you're trying to do is get as much value as you can for as lightweight as you can, for as inexpensive as you can. This is the small tool. I just wanted to be sure that it had a variety of things that actually seemed to make sense. A lot of these multi-tools have stuff and you're like, I'm never going to use that in an emergency situation. This one has a tiny little saw, like bottle openers, a knife, a corkscrew, screws, there's some scissors on there. This was important to me because it was more lightweight and easy to use. There are some that are super big. Because I would hopefully be traveling with my husband, he has a different type of multi-tool with different things on it. His is a little bit bigger. I think his has pliers. So I can make do with this. It would be important if we were separated, for some reason, I would still have a multi-tool. But if we were together, he would have different tool options and we could combine those together and have all sorts of variety. Paracord, because what emergency kit does not have paracord in it? Again, this can be used in so many different ways, just like the zip tie. This would be especially great if you needed to make an emergency tent. You could just string this between trees and then you could put like an emergency blanket over there. It could help with the emergency tent situation that I already showed you. Just so important. You can use your imagination for that. All right, another way of purifying water, because again, backups and redundancies are so important to me right now. This is something where you would need to add this powder to like a jug of water. So you would need the capability to have a decent amount of water, which is when some of these plastic bags would come into play, because you could fill it with water and then add this water purification packet to it. Like I said, it looks like 2.5 gallons of water is what this packet would purify. So I would probably just try to only use half of the packet if I couldn't have the 2.5 gallons of water right there. So this would be a way of purifying water. I have the Life Straw. I have the water bottles that I would bring with me. You could also get water purification tablets as well. I do have a pair of foldable scissors, just simply because I know how much you use scissors in so many situations. And while there's scissors on the multi-tool, I feel like these are more robust. Since I already had them and they are relatively small and lightweight, I went ahead and put that in my kit. I do have a little bit of duct tape rolled up. I would like a little bit of a better situation for the duct tape, but until I find that, this is what it's going to be in the kit. Again, duct tape is just like paracord, works for everything. We have a really tiny compass because, in all honesty, I don't think I'd be walking and navigating in a situation. Doesn't mean that it wouldn't happen. So I didn't invest in a huge, expensive compass. Hopefully I would be driving or know my way to wherever I'm going. So it's just a tiny little compass. You might want something a little bit bigger. K95 mask, because you never know what you are going to be escaping from. You could be in fire situation, wildfires, there could be particulates in the air of any type. So that is why a KN95 mask or an N95 mask is going to be super important to have in your bag. And then finally, I have a first aid kit pamphlet. I'll just leave that in there. This is something I picked up at a thrift store for like 10 cents. I would prefer it to be a little bit smaller. If I find something that is smaller, then I would definitely switch it out, but I did want something. If you buy a ready-made first aid kit, you might already have some sort of manual or pamphlet in there. But like I said, when I can find these for 10 cents at a thrift store, I'm going to just go ahead and get this. So before I get to food and clothing, let me show you a few more things. So this is toilet paper, because you got to have toilet paper. I took the cardboard roll out of the center and just smushed this. You could also use the Kleenex tissues that I had as well. You don't need both of them, but I would just prefer to have a lot of toilet paper. This is going to be one of the ways to have a small fire for cooking food. I'm not one of those people that is like, I'm going to cut down wood and start a fire and have a fire all night long and stay warm in the woods and camp out in the woods for a week. If I needed fire, it would be to boil water so that I could eat. This is a really easy folding stove, super small. I would take it out of the packaging, but it literally fits the entire packaging, so I figured I'd keep it like this. You do need fuel tablets for something like this, so just get a couple of the little fuel tablets. I think they last for like 15 minutes. You can store them inside the folded up stove. They are super lightweight as well. So this is just something small that will give you the option of having fire and warmth, but you don't have to necessarily bring an axe and a saw so that you can, create a campfire. Speaking of comfort, this is one thing, this was like a non-negotiable for me. If I'm going to be sleeping anywhere, I want a decent pillow. And this is a pillow that you just blow up. It is super lightweight. I looked at all the pillows that were available online to find the one that was going to weigh the least amount. And I've blown this up. It only takes like 3 or 4 breaths to blow this up. It is actually comfortable. This not only would be good if you had to sleep outside, if you had to sleep in your car, it would be nice. If you had to sleep in a shelter, it would add a little bit extra oomph to whatever pillow situation they might be providing. This could be used as like a lumbar support. Honestly, this was like a comfort item. Being comfortable can go a long way with stress relief. It wasn't too expensive. It weighs almost nothing. It doesn't take up that much room. It actually compresses down even more. So I'll put a link to this one in the description below. This was just one of those bougie things that I really wanted to include because proper sleep, so important. All right, so now we have food and clothing left in this bag. So this is going to be a huge food pack. And food is going to be, really dependent on what you like, how much you want to carry, how much you want to prepare it when you're on the move. So I have 3 ready-to-eat meals that I kept inside the backpack. These are oh so important to have like a proper meal, something hot, if you can boil water and if you have access to the water. So just having a few of those in your pack is important to have something like, a hot meal. I used a bunch of disposable utensils that I've collected, from takeout food. Also, some of them have napkins and salt and pepper in there. A cost-saving way of adding things to your bug-out bag. If you've seen my video of 27 free things to prep, this is going to be one of those things. They can be reused if needed and washed off. But I feel like having the disposable options is more important than having like a stainless steel, like 1 spoon, 1 fork, because you have to constantly be washing it. Then you have to have the soap and the water in order to do so. So in addition to the stuff that is in that bag, I'll dump all this out. I'm telling you, these bags are great. Added a few snacks. I was sure to find something that had a shelf life at least 6 months to a year out. So it was a little bit more challenging than you thought. I got some Velveetas. I got quite a lot of these snack mixes. These are from Sam's Club because it has the nuts in it, but it has chocolate as well. So it's like it has the protein, kind of keeps you full, but it also can keep you happy with that sugar and the candies. Another thing with protein would be just any sort of meat, a meat stick, meat pouches. Those are super important to have as well. Again, speaking of morale, if you've seen my videos, you know that chocolate in an emergency situation is important to me. So I chose to bring some hot chocolate packs. That is like among the easier ways to have chocolate because chocolate can melt. I'm hoping like the things in the snack packs are going to be a little bit more shelf stable or, not melt as much. But the hot chocolate, definitely chocolatey and good. Some protein bars. These actually have quite an extended expiration date on those, so that is nice. I did have one of these like silicone pop-up bowls. This is like from so long ago. I don't think you can buy them at this price anymore. But this is something where you could heat the water in the stainless steel cup and then make something in this bowl. It's super lightweight and thin. That's why I added it. I wouldn't add in like a plastic bowl or something hard that was taking up a lot of room. Among the other things are going to be some ramen, because hello, ramen in an emergency supply. Did you know that you can eat ramen noodles dry without heating them in liquid? So you can do that if needed, but it's a lightweight soup that I can bring. I have a packet of oatmeal of different flavors, or a packet of several different types of oatmeal. If I didn't have hot water, in a pinch, you could just put this in with normal water and just let it sit for a while. It wouldn't be the best, but it could work. So that's super filling. I have several of these. These have the electrolytes and the vitamins in there. Super good for in stressful situations when you're trying to keep your strength up, protect yourself from sickness if you are in, again, like a shelter or a large crowded area. They also add some flavor and some fizz to water, jazz it up. Candies are always important for morale boosters. Chose a few that are going to be okay in the heat. Got some lollipops. Again, a cost-saving measure is I just, keep all those little candy canes and peppermints that you get at doctor's offices or whenever they're giving them out at Christmas. And I just put those in my emergency kits. I added some teas. The teas are, again, something that can add flavor to water. And in this case, the Earl Grey has some caffeine. So if you needed a little kick of caffeine, a few little teas, those are super lightweight. Now, if you are a coffee drinker, I would suggest getting some of these small instant coffees. Again, caffeine. I have one. I don't drink coffee, but I have one of these in here in case I was in a situation where I needed to stay up or I needed a lot of energy in order to keep moving. I'm going to have one of these in there in order to use. I added some of these True Lemon packets because this also gives flavor to water. I like that it's individually packed, relatively inexpensive, and doesn't take up much room at all. I do have one of these little electrolyte powders. Just happened to have gotten that, so I put that in there. This, again, is another one of my cost-saving ways of doing your emergency kits. These are just sugar packets that I've gotten from takeout or at a restaurant. These can be added to, I don't know, you could even just add this to water to have a sugar water if you had somebody that had like a low blood sugar problem. If you just wanted to add flavor, this can be used in a variety of ways. So it's always good to have a few sugar packets on hand, especially if a low blood sugar situation might be an issue. And again, just some of the salt and pepper packets that I've picked up along the way at restaurants. This is like a seasoning packet from Red Robin. Herbs and spices and seasonings can go a long way of not only seasoning the food that you bring, but food that you might be served in a disaster situation, like from a shelter, from emergency food kitchens. It's just always nice to have something like that on hand. All right, we are almost done undoing this bag. So now we have clothing. What I have in here is a hoodie. Now the way that I did this is like clothing that I was getting ready to get rid of because it just didn't suit me anymore. Maybe there was like in this case, there was a few little small holes underneath the arms I didn't feel like fixing. Instead of donating it, I'm just putting it in my bug out bag. It is clothing that I know fits me, that I know is my style. It just might not be something that I want to wear on a daily basis. What I've also been doing is going to thrift stores and just finding things that might work. And that way I don't have to spend a lot of money on it. But I also have clothes that are set aside in my bag. So I had that lightweight hoodie. This is a t-shirt that can be layered. It can be worn as is or layered underneath the hoodie. This is a pair of shorts. Again, if you don't know what season that you might be in, you need to have something for all seasons. So a pair of shorts. I have a pair of black leggings. Those can be worn in the winter. I do have another t-shirt. This is a long sleeve shirt. Think about layering, and thin layers are easier to pack in your bag than thick layers. I do have a scarf. I would like to get a thinner scarf. I just put this in here because I wanted to have something in there. My intentions are to get something that folds up much thinner. I would also like a scarf that's a little bit wider. That way you can use it as a head wrap instead of a hat if needed. You could also use it as a very small blanket, as a covering. So that's what I look for in scarves. But for right now, I wanted to have something in my bag. This is another important thing to me. It might not be a necessity, but it is definitely a comfort. And I think it's a pretty big comfort. And this is a linen Turkish blanket. And it expands pretty big. And what these are used for is a lot of times people use these at the beach as like beach towels, but they are very absorbent. So you can use these as a towel. You could use this as a blanket because it is rather large. It is soft and linen and big enough that you could wrap it around your neck as a scarf. You could put it over your head as a head wrap, especially in the summertime, to protect from the heat and the sun because it is lightweight and it wouldn't be too hot. And these are great because they dry really, really quickly. So having that in my pack is also a non-negotiable for me. And like I said, it could be used as a blanket either outdoors, it can be used indoors. If you're in a shelter situation or something, it can be used as a towel if you don't want to use like a towel that they provide. And I do have in here one black contractor trash bag. This is so important. A contractor trash bag is different than a normal black trash bag that you would like put leaf and yard waste in. This is thicker. So this would be great as an underlayment on the ground to protect you from moisture on the ground if you were sleeping on the ground. It can be used as a poncho if you cut holes in it. It can be used to collect water. It can be used to heat water. You could put water, even a small amount of water, in like one of the corners of this and let it sit out in the sun. And it's not going to be boiling, but it is going to be warm. This can also be cut apart with the scissors that we have and used as a temporary tent structure if you string it over the paracord. So this is really important to have. There are so many uses for a trash bag. And finally, I will show you what is in the back of this bag. And this is a lay flat portion of the bag. I purposely chose not to fill this up too much because this is where I would want to put the laptops or laptop and like anything else that I would bring. I wanted to keep this open. You will see that I do have a pair of flip-flops. These aren't going to be deal breakers, but again, if you are in a situation where you had to take community showers, you just want something to protect your feet. They're lightweight. You can get them at the dollar store. These are from Walmart. Something that's not a necessity but can be a comfort and just make you feel a little bit better. In here, I have one dryer sheet and one laundry detergent sheet. These take up no room. They are incredibly lightweight. Again, I can put links below. But if you're needing to do your own laundry situation, at least you would have something that you like and that you might not react to. So during Hurricane Helene, a lot of laundry was an issue because nobody could do laundry without power and water. So Tide came in and set up temporary laundry facilities at the Home Depot. And I saw people like walking through Home Depot with their laundry in order to do laundry. People were actually doing laundry in other people's houses. It was like very interesting how people opened up their homes and allowed strangers to just wash their underwear in their washing machines. But it was such an act of selflessness because people need clean clothes. But like I was saying, Tide was coming in. I'm allergic to Tide. There's no way that I could have used what they were providing in order to do my laundry. So this is something that is sensitive skin that I know that I could use. So just having one of each of those is important to me. I could actually fold this in half and have 2 different uses in there if needed. And I think that is all that is in there. And there is one, I forgot about the pack back here. So this is a few other little things. I wanted to be sure that this was soft because this is going to be against your back should you have to carry this pack. These are some disposable gloves for the first aid kit that I didn't have room for in the other bag. This is a fleece hat for wintertime, so important to have that. And then this is where I put the socks that I have. I put in 3 pairs of socks. You know, even if you had clean socks, you could use those as like a pre-filter for your water if they were clean. You don't want to have wet socks, so bring more than 1 pair of socks. Also, be sure that they are moisture wicking. I have had cheap polyester socks and put them on and walked around, and your feet are sweating. You're going to be miserable. You're going to have blisters. So this is something where you really want to be sure that they're either wool or they have moisture wicking properties. Be sure to put on the socks. Walk around in them, like, you know, in some sneakers or hiking boots for a while. And make sure that your feet don't get all nasty and sweaty. And I also have 3 pairs of underwear. Obviously, I'm not going to show those, but I keep the underwear in a Ziploc bag. I would put that in here as well. And the very last thing is just a little trash bag. If, again, you were in a situation where you had to go to a community shower, you had to bring things with you somewhere, this is an easy way of carrying a small amount of items. This is also great for putting wet clothing in, for your laundry and keeping it separate from everything else in your bag. It weighs nothing. You could also use it for trash, obviously. I'm just going to show you what this backpack looks like when it's not completely full. It is rather lightweight. This is among the biggest backpacks that I could find. I didn't stuff it completely. Like, I could have stuffed it even more. This is a 60-liter backpack. You can use any backpack, like your kid's old backpack, a backpack from the thrift store. It was just important to me to get something that was as big as possible because I knew I wanted to fit as much as possible in there. And this is the one that I chose, so I'll put that link down below. I know y'all have comments. I know y'all have things that you would put in there, you wouldn't put in there. Let us know in the comments below and read the comments below so that you get some more ideas for your 72-hour emergency kit bug out bag.